is your girl Taz,
And your girl Sha.
and we're your host on TLD. Today's topic is weight of a woman. How do we define weight of a woman? What do you think, Shah?
I think the weight of a woman are things, her thoughts, her concerns, her beliefs that really keeps running through her mind, things that she has to work on, or things that may keep her up at night, things that give her anxiety. And for each woman, it's something different.
I agree. I agree. I want to say broadly because the weight of a woman could be her physical weight, her hair, her children, her career,
Mm,
her
yes,
relationships, her mind, and the list can
absolutely.
go on and on and on.
Hmm.
You
That is
know,
so true. And one of those things that you mentioned, I was talking to different people, and one of those things that you mentioned, almost everybody mentioned that one of those things. What do you think that was?
oh, let's see. Hmm. It's between probably the weight in relationships. I mean, I know you said one, but I want to say it's between those two. I think those are a biggie.
That's it. Relationships is what
Right.
everybody said. From talked to people in their 70s, men, women, and they said relationships.
I could
So,
believe that. I could believe that because and relationships is just not just limited to your partner. It could be a friendships. It could be relationships that you
hmm,
have with your siblings, your parents. So I
that's
I,
true.
I
But the
agree.
people I spoke to, they were talking about romantic relationships,
Right. Right.
partnerships with in a romantic way. But
I
yes, all
agree.
kinds of relationships can have be a weight on you.
Right.
Work relationships, like you said, family, all kinds of relationships. But
Right. Right. Let me ask you, what do you think the opposite sex would say if you asked them about this? Like, what is the weight of a woman to you? What you think they would say?
I did check with one of my friends, and he said the what he thinks that would be a weight of a woman is she's trying to think, who am I going to spend the rest of my life with?
Wow, that's a big one.
Yes. And then he's was going to go into like security, like financial security, but then he said no, it would be who she spends the rest of her life with, because depending on who that person is, that will somewhat determine her financial security.
Right,
So
right.
yes, he felt it was that. And I just to piggyback off of it, I was just curious what he was going to say, what the weight of a man would be, to see if it would be the
Mm,
same thing. And he said that it would be, he said maybe relationships. Then he said, nah, I would say career. He said for a man, I think they're more concerned about the career. And he said that some older gentlemen that he knows that talk to the younger gentlemen, they tell them, get your career right, and then the other stuff will fall in place.
right, right.
So,
Well, what most men, it's financial for them. They if they're not
right.
financially situated,
Hmm.
should I say? It can kind of hurt their ego, or they're not feeling the best that they can be. So that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense.
It does. And yeah, it's like night and day if they're in a good place financially.
Right,
If
right,
you could tell their whole disposition changes if their money is not right.
right. Yeah. Well,
So,
yeah, no, that's interesting. Some other things that I feel that puts weight on women, it's just them having to be well put together. A lot of times women feel like they have to have the whole shebang just to feel like a woman or to feel whole. Some people say women have to be happy majority of the
mhm.
time, you know,
Mhm.
with no complaining. You hear that a lot,
Mm.
Men, they're bigger like that. You can't say too much of anything or you're complaining. Another thing I
Wow.
think too is body acceptance. It's so much of that is going on in the world now where people feel like they have to enhance themselves to be, I don't know if it's more than who they feel they should be, or is it something they're doing for men, or like I hear a lot of people always say, women normally try to dress for other women or enhance their bodies for other women. And I don't know if
Mm.
I agree with that 100%.
I
Like
don't
for
think they're
women,
enhancing. I don't think they're enhancing their bodies for other women, but I think a lot of times things, clothing and handbags and jewelry and stuff that women may purchase, a lot of times, like they, I think they may be doing it for a man's attention, but a lot of those things men, I don't think, pay attention to. Like, say, the $4,000 handbag. I think
right?
a man that's interested in you is not going to be interested in you because you're carrying a $4,000 pocketbook.
Right. Just unless he's shallow. You got people who are kind of materialistic and then that'll go
That's
hand
true.
in hand. But like you said, the average Joe, no, if, he's not necessarily paying attention to all of the things that we would think. So that's why I guess some people say, well, you're dressing for other women. And I debunk that a lot
Right.
of times. I'm like, no, and I'm not going out. I'm dressing for me. And I definitely want the opposite sex to look at me, not so much a woman.
I know that's right.
you know,
Shoot. Oh, that's interesting.
it
Yeah, I
is.
think when it comes to certain things, we I think we just think we're dressing for the man, but really it's just other women that's looking at those things that we're concerning ourselves with.
Right, right, and I mean, and it makes sense because we're women. But I'm definitely not trying to see what you got on, and I don't care whether you think I'm popping or not. I'm doing it for me because I think I look good, and definitely
Right.
trying to get the attention of the opposite, not you.
Mhm.
So
Right. Yeah.
well, but yeah, but that's what I think, and I just think it's with the body, acceptance and the changing of the body. It's a lot. I was just listening to the
Yeah.
girl Black China. She's a I guess you could call it a celebrity in today's world, and she
Mhm.
just did a big cover about her taking down her, getting rid of her fillers and her butt injections and her lip fillers and cheek enhancement things, and I was just like, wow.
She got
And
all of that stuff taken out.
yeah, she had, she was saying that she was starting to look like characters on movies, scary movies and stuff like that, and she really
Wow.
was, it wasn't becoming, it was changing her look. And again, I'm not sure why she did it or what caused her to do it, but I think it was a good thing to see her saying, you know what, enough is enough. I want to look like what I remember I look like without all of this. Um,
Mhm.
some
And
people,
maybe that will encourage her followers to do the same thing. I don't think I think it's just becoming too much.
right,
I think we're getting to the point where it's just too much when you see who was that? Kay Michelle did a show talking about all the problems she had with her plastic surgery, and then
right,
she had other people come on the show. I mean, they went through some people go through so much just to
and
have a certain. I could see if one is disfigured or maybe was in an
right,
accident or something, having a plastic surgery to correct that. But just to have a piece of your body larger, or I, I don't get it, but I would have to talk to both of us are probably on the same page with that,
right,
Taz, but I would have to talk to someone to see really what the mindset is to sometimes risk their life going to people's houses to have this stuff
right,
done and not secure medical facility.
right.
So,
Yeah,
yeah.
I think that part of it is real scary, and I commend her because she feel like that was when she was younger, or maybe she felt like that wasn't the best thing to do. I'm glad that she could see that it's more than just looking a certain way. Like let's really
Mhm.
talk about, like you just said, the health part of it. And I feel like a lot of people, to each his own, but I think a lot of people need to stress the dangers and they don't. It's just like I get this surgery
Mhm.
done, I'm gonna hide in the house, wear these bandages, have the black eyes,
Mhm.
have the bleeding, and all of this stuff going on, and
Mhm.
no one will know until they see me looking perfect. And that's not real. You know what I'm saying? That's not the
Mhm.
the truth behind what a lot of people go through. And like I said, I know not
Right.
all people, because not everybody swell up and so on and so forth, but the majority of the people are suffering. And they're not
Mm.
showing their followers or their loved ones or even someone that they feel a little insecure, like, listen, I get it, but this is what comes with that. And I think if people
Yes.
stress that a little bit more, then I don't know if everybody would be so quick to run and go do those type of things,
Right.
unless it was very, very necessary. And I think a lot of this
Mhm.
stuff is not necessary. But again, to each his own.
Yeah, I think people feel that it will make them more marketable in the dating market if their body is a certain way.
Right.
And then you got to kind of think, who are you trying to, what type of person is attracted to some of those bodies that don't look, well, I don't know what the word, but some of them look really exaggerated and super pronounced. Who
Right.
is attracted to but bodies like that? Is that
Mm.
an individual that that person may want?
Right.
And that kind of brings me to another question. About 50% of adult Americans are single. That's a lot. In 1950, the number was only about 22%. When I talk to my friends, the conversation always goes to dating and where to find dateable men. This is a topic that weighs heavy on many of the women I know.
Hmm.
Do you have any suggestions on what single women can do in regards to relieving the weight of being single?
Ooh, you and these questions. Good. Good questions. But I gotta really think about them. I'm pretty sure there's a number of things that we can do as women. The first thing that comes to mind would be for women to know what they want in a partnership. I think hands
Mm,
down, you got to know what you want.
right. And they say it's
Um,
good to write that down, what you
absolutely,
want.
yeah, you got to. I think we as women, we we have to want something that's going to be mentally, physically, and spiritually when it comes to a relationship. I
Mhm.
feel like once we know what we want, then we're not going to settle for less.
Mhm.
Then I think we have to utilize our resources, opportunities, like far as in, a lot of us have friends and associates, and there's events that's going on out here. You got online
Mhm.
dating. You have to
Mhm.
participate in outings, and I mean the list can go on and on, just so you
Right.
can start looking for the compatibility, so you don't have to deal with that weight of, oh man, I'm single. um and then I think once you find potential matches, I think you should get to know them, date, and rotate. Is my philosophy. Date and
I like
rotate.
that. Date and rotate.
Date and rotate. You know what I'm saying? I mean, just until you get to that process of elimination. And I know that sounds kind of harsh, but it's like you can't just settle on the first thing that you think maybe
Right.
what could be potentially a partner, and then you find down the line like, oh no, this is not what I wanted. So I think you
Mm.
have to kind of date, and when I say date, it means strictly, like, it may not even entail sex. It's just strictly, I'm getting to know this person, I'm getting to know a few people. and
Mhm.
and if it's five people that I'm getting to know, let it be that, let it be known this is what you're doing. And
Mhm.
as you get to know each person, you'll say, well, that's not for me. Well, he's kind of, well, I don't know about that one. And then that's what I call the process of elimination. So now you're not wasting too much time,
Mm.
and you're not
Yes.
selling on the first thing that you think
Right.
is the one. And just to only be
Mhm.
let down. And I just think, and if that doesn't work, then you repeat that cycle, get another five or another 10. And,
Yeah.
you know,
I told you, Taz, I was trying something different for the new year by going out by myself, just to to be out because you definitely are not going to meet anyone in the house.
Right.
So I went to a restaurant not too far from where I live, and I
Yes.
said I was going to sit at the bar, order dinner, and just, see how it played out. And that's not something I would do. I mean, I have had to eat out by myself for, like, say, for traveling for business or something like that. But typically, if I'm home, I may go pick some food up. But I can't think the last time I really just sat somewhere and just ate by myself. I usually go with friends or family. So I went to the restaurant, sat at the bar, and it was just kind of neat to see how it worked, how people pretty much talk to the people around them.
Hmm.
And I did meet a gentleman there, and I got his number. And I was telling one of my friends about him, and she said, "Are you going to call him?" I said, "Yeah, I'm going to call him." She said, "You don't have to." And I said, I'm going to call him and see, because I was kind of neutral about it.
Right.
But I I think that kind of goes in the line of what you were just saying. You just don't have to. She was kind of saying just because you met somebody, you don't have to call them, and you was like saying that you don't have to just
Be obligated.
settle,
Right.
yeah, be obligated to that person. But I want to say also that it was a good experience, and I'm looking forward to doing again, going to a different restaurant. But that's, I think, something that single women could, and it may be something. I was telling a friend about it. She said, "I do that all the time." Some people
Hmm.
may do it a lot, and some people don't. So, but
Right.
it was really a good
Well,
experience.
listen, I commend you, and I think sometimes we have to get out of our comfort zone, and
Mhm.
one thing that kind of was like a little red flag for me was, you're telling her, and the first thing she said, well, you're not, you don't have to call him, and it's like, yeah, I mean, I think anybody knows that, but that's the whole point of getting to know someone. And if that's, if that's where your mind was, or if your mind continued to be in that, then that'll be your weight of not having or being single. So yeah, I mean, just because you exchange my number don't necessarily mean that it's going to be some kind of romantic relationship. It would may just be platonic. Hey, we're good friends. Oh man, I don't found the best friend. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So yeah,
Mhm.
you got to be
Yeah.
careful when you listen to certain people, because sometimes you'd be surprised where your blessing lies.
That's
Um,
true. You never
yeah,
know
no,
where it's
absolutely.
gonna come from.
That's it. And even if it's just
Mhm.
someone that this is where you guys just meet up every now and again, just as company. He may be looking just like you're looking, or just,
Right.
out doing what you're doing. So I think, no, I mean, clearly we know we don't have to give our numbers and exchange numbers and so on and so forth. But if you are, what's the harm? you know?
Yeah.
Um, another thing I want to add to, just the whole singleness. And I want people to, keep in mind on the flip side of that. And I'm gonna get a little biblical. I'm not a, a pastor, preacher, or no holy roller, but the Bible speaks about singleness. If you read in First Corinthians, it has a lot about relationships and marriage and stuff like that. So I was looking at the scripture in First Corinthians 7:38, which stated, "Whoever marries does well, but whoever
Mm.
does not marry will do better." And
What?
oh yeah. See, that's what I'm saying. The Bible, again, I'm not a holy roller, but I know a little bit. And it's definitely an instruction book for us. You understand what I'm saying? And I
Mhm.
don't want people to take that well, I want to say literal because it is, but I just want people to remember that that verse, that's just a part of more to what the chapter was about. But it just show you that when you're single, you have more time to devote yourself to spiritual things.
Yes, that's true.
When you're single, you don't have the husband to worry about. When you're
Mhm.
single, you know what I'm saying? It just shows you that it's okay. But
Mhm.
God just talked, like I said, it's more to those scriptures, but I just wanted people to just think about, like, hey, God said it's okay to be single. But he talks
Yeah.
about those who can't contain themselves. If you feel
Right.
that you're going to have those urges and things, then go ahead and get married, so you don't be, going against your spiritual body, or sense of. that. But no, so I just wanted people to remember that it's like, no, I mean, marriage is great. God promotes that just like he promotes, singleness. But he just, it's just principles that come with both, you know.
Yeah, that's a good reminder because I think, especially individuals that are in their 20s and then early 30s that are still single, they feel that something may be wrong with them, or people ask me, when you going to get married, when you going to be married, get married, and then they feel somewhat inadequate.
Right,
But that's a good scripture to reference to for them to
right,
keep in mind.
right,
Yes.
right. And like I said, the whole chapter of Corinthians, because like I said, excuse me, it's talking about, both parts of it, and it breaks down why both are good, and why, you can enjoy both ways, you know what I'm saying? Because a lot of people say, oh
Mhm.
yeah, marriage, 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 but okay, for some people it may not, that may not be for them, and it's okay,
Right.
and vice
That's
versa.
true.
So, you know
Yeah.
so let me ask you this. Let's see, do you or do you know anyone that have any personal weights, that they would like to share, or that you can share, or that you could share, from them?
Mhm. I will speak on for myself.
Okay.
And I would say at this juncture in life, I think aging is a blessing,
Hmm.
but it is also a weight. And the weight that I feel that comes with it is watching your body change, watching your hair change, watching um, maybe how your body feels change. And also just kind of thinking about financial security because, once you retire, you can't work forever, even though that may be some individual. Well, some people can work forever. I don't want to work forever. I would like to stop working at one point
Right.
and do just
Enjoy
whatever
life.
yeah, I want to do. But, and you hear, I listen to different financial people read different financial books, and they talk about, oh, you need to have about $1 million or $2 million in your 401k so you could live just like you were living prior to retiring. So I don't have $1 million or $2 million in my 401k. So that is a concern of mine. Do I think I'm going to be fine? I do believe I'm going to be fine, but it is something that weighs on me. And I guess I just have to try to be as smart as I can, be a good steward of what I do have, and invest like I should, and things will work out. But that is a concern of mine.
Well, I think that's an excellent one. You don't hear that much. You don't hear that. It's a which is a fear, and I think it's a great
Mhm.
fear.
Mhm.
I've worked in as a caregiver, and I've seen parts of that. And I've seen what it's like to not be able, or not to be able to
Mm.
afford, and
Mhm. Mhm.
it is a little sad. It is a little concerning, and
Mhm.
especially if you don't have the support. So I
Right.
think you made an excellent point on that. And like I tell people, and I'm not there yet, but even with a little bit that I do have, I try to be mindful. Like, you have to get things in order. You have
Mhm.
to prepare as much as you can.
Mhm.
As you age, you know what I'm saying.
Yes.
I lost a friend last year, and before I lost her, I went down there to visit her, and she wanted me to go to places with her to kind of almost like finalize, things that she had going on, because she knew, her health was declining and stuff like that. And I appreciated that, because it let me know that, you know, she didn't want to leave a burden, or she
Mhm.
tried to do what she could in her power to handle things. Like I said, she paid for her, funeral, and just different things that a lot of people
Mm.
don't do. And your family members are looking like, oh gosh, can we put money together because such and such didn't have this, and so on and so forth. And it could be draining, and it could be
Mhm.
frustrating, and so on and so forth. So that those are legitimate weights, and things that we should definitely look more into. Um,
Mhm.
I know one
Did
thing
your
that
friend have children?
she did.
Okay.
She had a daughter that she birthed, and she had an adopted child. Um,
Oh, okay.
yeah, but
Mhm.
it was just
Yeah.
situations with that where she was kind of like estranged from them, and so it
Oh,
was almost like
okay.
she was a loner, and I became
Mm.
her family, and
Yeah.
it was been 20
I,
plus years that we were together, and she was my buddy. And
mhm.
I seen about her, and she seen about me, and when I was able to go see her, I would. And you know
Mhm.
but like I said again, it just puts you in that mind frame, like those are things that you have to think about, and those things you have to start preparing for, and now. And that's not something, oh, I'll
Mhm.
wait. Have a living will,
Mhm.
have a directive, have all
Mhm.
these different things, even out to your, like I tell people, your cell phones, your light bills. Hey, you can't pay those things because you're sick in the hospital. Someone is authorized on your bill to do those things. You get what I'm saying? Like, people don't think about the
Oh.
smallest things.
Mhm.
So yeah, and those weights can get very heavy because when you're trying to handle someone's business and you don't have the access,
Right.
what
Right.
what are you left to do? So I try to tell people from my personal experience, just kind of going through with her, like, hey, and I even tell my mom, like, listen, these are the things that people don't want to talk about, but you talk about it at one time
Mhm.
and get it over with.
Mhm.
Let
Right.
people,
Right.
what I'm saying? This is not something you talk about every day. Oh, when I die, no, but you
Yes.
gotta have these conversations.
Yeah. I've had a will for a very long time.
Right?
Um, but yeah, like you said, one of my friends, she says that like her daughter has all her passwords, so if something happened to her, she could get into the different accounts. So I
Yes.
thought that that's a good idea too.
No, listen,
Yeah.
anything that you know that you have or you want to leave to someone, like I said, get it. And even, like I said, even what you having it for a long time, you may have to update it. You know what I'm saying? A
Mhm.
lot of that
That's
takes
true.
place too. And
Mhm.
but like I said, also get a medical proxy. You know what I'm saying? All of those things have to
Mhm.
be set in place. So in an event, I can't
Mhm.
take care of myself. In an event, I can't. Hey, who's going to be that person that's going to step in to do that for me? And you may have to
Mhm.
list a couple of people because you never know how life swings. You get what I'm saying?
Right. You
So,
don't. You do
it
not
was
know.
another interesting thing to me was NYU did a study on depression, and during that
Mm.
study, they noticed black women suffered different symptoms than the normal. And I was
Like
like, really? And some of the
like
things that,
what?
well, they were saying that black women suffered with fatigue,
Mm.
insomnia, decreased libido, self blame, irritability, and an ability to
Wow.
experience pleasure more than any
Oh,
other races in the study. And I was like,
that's
wow.
so sad.
But it makes so much sense, though. It is. No, listen, it is, because it just goes to show you that we as black women go through a lot more. Clearly,
Yes, we do.
and I mean, I don't know that's being biased because I am that, but to me, that study to me kind of confirmed it. You know what I'm saying? Like, it just kind of
Mhm.
made you say, wow. I mean, to say that we experience way more things than the other races is like, wow, okay. But I could relate to it because, it was almost like a light bulb went off, boop. And I'm like, you know
Mhm.
what? This makes a lot of sense. And it explains a lot of things that we as women go through. I said, in some
Mhm.
cases, I think it's, well, in some cases, I think it's safe to say that we're not always the angry black woman. It could be a
Right.
situation where we're experiencing depression because
Right.
clearly, you see what the study just stated,
Irritability and stuff. Yeah.
right?
It could
Self
be just
blame,
clinically depressed.
right? And look at what it said: inability to experience pleasure. I mean,
Mm.
that's deep.
That is deep.
So with that whole concept, angry black woman, well. That angry black woman may not be an angry black woman. She may be in a state of depression. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying? Um,
Mhm.
so, just so with knowing that, I feel at least now that I can identify that, and I could look at others as well as myself, and just say, well, you know what, I think you may be in a state of depression. And
And
when I
seek
think,
and seek help for it. Since
right,
you may readily identify it now that you have read that study, you might be said to a friend or whoever, maybe that individual is depressed and they could need
well,
to seek help for it.
well, listen, I could raise my hand. I could be the first in line. A lot of those things they've stated, I could say, you know what, I've been there. Huh? I may
Hmm.
currently be there. You get what I'm
Right.
saying?
I hear you.
And when you think about a lot of people that you speak to, women, of course, they're tired. They're so tired. They're not able to
Yes.
sleep. Well, my love. And again, I'm not trying to use this as something to, as an excuse or something to just pinpoint on everyone, but it shows that it's something to that, and then a lot of people are experiencing more than we know it, because a lot of the
Mm.
people that I speak to are experiencing a lot of those things.
Yeah, especially the insomnia and the
Oh, right.
fatigue.
Yes. And
Yeah.
listen, I raise my hand. Like I said, I feel like I go to sleep, wake up tired, go to sleep, wake up tired, and it's like, okay, what is this? You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And one thing I would like to touch more on is the low libido.
Mm.
I feel like that's a big issue for women, especially when it comes to sexual intercourse. Now, I don't know about nobody else, but I hear the conversations and the whisper that men have and how they feel like women are holding back sex. Some men feel like women are not interested in them anymore, or men just feel like, oh, women is just trying to, punish me. And I'm like, mm, look, I'm like, listen, man, it's none of those things. It may strictly be the weight of a woman,
Hmm.
the state of mind that she's in,
She may
and
be just depressed, tired,
right, that plays a big role in their life, in their sex life. You know,
but that's points to how important it is to get that corrected. Because, and not that it's just so easy to, oh, take a pill and fix it, but we just think that certain things, oh, I'm just tired, or I'm not sleeping good, that is not a big deal. But it is a big deal because it carries over to other parts of your life,
right,
especially for someone that's married and has a partner. So it could
right.
carry over to
Right. And
into
and
that.
and, and or again, even in singleness, you know what I'm saying? Because it still applies. If you're just not there mentally, it's still going to do the same thing. And then you may not, even for someone being single, it may not allow you to want to do those things. You get what I'm saying? Go out,
Hmm.
fix yourself up, or just
Right,
whatever. You
right.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, like I said, I think that's a big thing. And like I said, I can relate because I go through a lot of the ups and downs. And when
Hmm.
things are weighing on me personally, I'm not thinking about no forms of intimacy whatsoever. You know what I'm saying? It's like,
Right.
don't look at me, don't touch me, excuse me. And I know it sounds harsh, but you know, it is what it is. And I just feel
Hmm.
like, how can someone be in that space sexually when you're going through a lot of emotions, and you're in a state of depression? Let's call it what it is now. I think we got a
Hmm.
little more to say. Oh, it's a depression, it's depression. Again, not to make it like an excuse or everything is relating to that, but I think when your mind and your mind is somewhere else, and I'm gonna say for me, my body is not reacting, and that's just straight truth. It
Well,
just, it doesn't want to be bothered. It doesn't even
and
function.
that's kind of natural for that to happen because we're concerned about our essential stuff first.
Right,
Like, I don't know, every woman has a different weight. And for some women is as basic as food and shelter. So if an individual is concerned about those things, no, they're not going to be interested in being intimate if though their basic needs are not being met.
right.
So
And even if
yeah.
it's not basic, and I don't know, like I said, because there's so many things that could weigh us down. You know, it
Mhm.
could be, like I said, children. It could be, just like
Mhm.
maybe our weight.
Mhm.
I'm not happy with my weight, and it's so many things that could weigh you down. And like I said,
Mhm.
I'm gonna just say this: men out there, please be easy on us, ladies, because
Mhm.
it's a mental state, which is just not allowing our bodies to function. Hey, we may want to, we may know that we need to, but due to the state of our mind, it takes over our bodily functions, and
Wow.
those are facts.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
don't think it's something wrong with you. Some cases it could be, but when we're talking about the mental state, mental health, this depression, it's real.
Yes, and just to count to piggyback off of what we were saying earlier, all of this stuff ties together.
Right,
The different weights, it could affect our love life, it could affect our financial life, it could affect all different aspects of our life. But we just have to think about different things that could help make those things better. Like Taz was saying, the depression. If we could identify it and maybe talk to our a primary care physician about it, maybe they could give us point us in the right direction to get the help with it. I was talking about financial security as you get older, and we could be responsible with the resources that we have. I was just looking at just saw a little thing where it says the earlier you start saving, the better. Everybody knows that. And it makes a substantial difference the earlier you start. Like, for example, if someone puts away $500 a month for 20 years, they'll wind up with $430,000. If they do it for 30 years, they'll wind up with $1.4 million. That's
right,
a huge difference. So if someone can start in their 20s, 30s, whenever, but start. But the earlier, the better.
right.
But that was just some things we wanted to touch on in regards to the weight of a woman. There's so many, everybody has different weights, and I think it's important to talk to your confidant about the different weights that you have to maybe get advice on how you could handle that particular weight. Do you have anything, Taz, you want to add to that?
Yes, check in. Ask one another, how are you doing? You know how like Wendy Williams saying, how are you doing?
And
You have
really mean it and wait for the
right,
response. Yes.
right. She said it, playing, but we have to check in with people. We have to see where they are in that state of mind, and give them the resources, be that listening ear, help them, tackle some of these things, not just making it like, oh, well, that's your problem. No, sometimes we have to be that person that helps someone through something,
Yes, I
because
agree.
we're living in a time where it's heavy for all. So we have to come together, check in on one another, and help us muster through some of the things that we're going through, and most importantly, I'm going to say this scripture. God says, with anxiety, you know, having anxiety will not add one cupid to your
Mm,
life,
mm. Yes, that's one of my favorites. Yes, it will
you
not.
know. So we have to remember that it's easier said than done, but just think about it. If it's not adding, what is it doing? It's taking away.
Subtractive. Yes.
So
And if you guys could put in the comments some of the weights you may have or some common weights that you're aware of and what could help those weights, that would be great. And I just want to thank you guys for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe and share.